Oh my gosh. It's week 11, right? Like 10? I don't remember if this class is 10 or 11. Yesterday was 10, so this must be 11. This is the worst instant coffee in the entire world. Ugh. I'm so desperate, I don't care. Okay, my goal today. Show you the rest of the stuff for the book. That's it. I'm telling you, it's not that hard. It's just knowing where certain things are and how to manipulate some things. I'm going to show you just briefly like the auto page layout and the purpose of it and what you can do for it. I don't necessarily expect you to remember the auto page layout stuff. I don't suspect you'll use the auto page layout, but just to understand what that's doing is pretty much the extent of it, but then we'll just focus on the book stuff. It's really not that bad. It's really not that difficult. It's just a matter of playing more so than anything else. So that's our goal. And then really just let you start playing. So hopefully you've got images. Anyone not have a thought for their book yet? Hoping everybody does. Yay. So let me grab something that's not a person. I'm sick of looking at it. I just bought, this might be a good thing. I just bought I always wait for a Groupon for photo books for like my kids' pictures. They each get a book each year. But I found this year it was like Pickaboo or something books, because the company I usually use went under and Shutterfly bought them out. So Pickaboo just had a Groupon where you buy 5 books for $40, and they're like 9 by 12, 8.5 by 11 or something, and 20 pages. So, and I usually pay $10 a book and then pay shipping, but this is 5 books for $40. Yes. So I got to make my San Francisco trip into a book. So this is going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So doing something like that, you could do that with these books. You could buy like a Groupon for a photo book if you're cheap like me when it comes to just a quick little memory book. And then you build it in Lightroom, and then you export it as a PDF or JPEG, and then you simply just upload full page images into these book drag and drop template things and then send it to print. So that's exactly what I'm doing with this. So we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here, because I'm going to start building the book that I need to print in the next 180 days before that Groupon expires. So if you're looking for books for stuff like this too, and you want to print your stuff, you can buy a single book, and I don't remember how much it was, but it's a better deal the more books you buy. All right, so let's select some images here. So the goal is to have your images edited, whether it's in Lightroom and or Photoshop. We talked about Photoshop last week and what you can do with that. Your book does need to have some of your images edited in Photoshop. Not every single one has to be. I just need to see that at some point you understood how to take it in Photoshop, do that editing, and bring it back. So now, once you have your book ready, we talked about the starting of the book last week, which I did start a book. The biggest thing, what's the very most important first step once you create your book, or you go into the book module, I should say? Please tell me somebody remembers. You're going to curse yourself if you don't. No one remembers the first step that you have to do. It's not showing on mine because I already did it. Maybe I should just create a blank one here. Oh, yeah, that's a good thing, too. Yeah, going to the book preferences and turning off that autofill. That's definitely a good thing. Create saved book. Oh, thank you. Yes, create saved book. It's such an important thing.
That's going to be my next guess. I just remember it being really annoying whenever I clicked on the book tab and it autofilled.
And it autofilled. Yes, that would be the second most annoying thing that you would want to make sure that you do. So yes, when you create a new book, do a create saved book. It doesn't hurt to change the settings first and then create saved book. Just don't forget to do it, because then it doesn't start auto-saving. And then when you go out of the book module and back into it, nothing's there. So that is the most important step. I want to create a different size here. Ooh, 8 by 10, that would work.
I'll let you know, I'm gonna head out early today. I just don't feel good.
Oh,
I'll be in here Thursday to do some extra work and stuff and get caught up.
yeah, absolutely, no problem. Doesn't have the exact size that the book I'm creating has, so maybe we'll kind of go 11, 13 and be close. Because I think it's a 9 by 12, so that'll be a little bit closer. Grade save book, inside there. There we go. Okay, so when we create these books, we went through all the book settings and things like that. One of the things that I said I was just going to point out is this auto layout. Remember that it will auto layout your book unless you go into the book menu and go to book preferences and uncheck that evil checkbox that autofills new books. However, there might be times where you are, let's say for example, you have a client that wants a proof book. Now, most people don't do proof books now, but if you have someone that wants a physical proof book, we used to do that at the studio, only for seniors, where we would just have a large thumbnail on a page and just a tiny little spot, maybe like a third of an 8.5 by 11 page, that they could make notes on, write, hand around to people and circle or say, I want this cropped, or this is my favorite, or star it, or whatever. Make notes in it. That process was a tedious process because we would drag and drop one image at a time into that layout, print, drag and drop the next 3, there were only 3 per page, print, and then we'd have to cut and bind the book and everything, and it was kind of annoying. And multiply that times over 100 seniors every summer, it gets old really quick. So if you were just to have all the images, this is before Lightroom too, so now I would hope that the studio is doing this. Now you could do this auto layout button, which is an awesome feature for something like that. For everything else, it's annoying, but in this case, it would be great, where you could set the left and the right page to be very specific templates and then autofill everything. So the auto layout, basically it's auto lay it out and then clear your layout. However, it's the preset that we want to pay attention to, and that's what I want to point out. I'm going to go to this edit auto layout preset. Simply so you can see what you can do with it. So if you have something where you just have to quickly put together a book or whatever it may be, maybe it's a proof book, that kind of stuff. We used to do this too for trips. We would make basically a contact sheet, but then we would just make it into a book. So it was just tiny little thumbnails of all the pictures from a trip. It was always Randy's trips, and then we would have to put these books together for him. But that way he could hand it around to anyone that went on that trip, and they could say, I want all of these pictures, and it had the image numbers on it. So auto layout for something like that too, just a quick little, almost like a contact sheet would be great. So when you're in here, there are a couple of presets that are preset. So you can see in this drop down, like it has the left blank, right side has one photo. You're basically choosing what template do you want for the left page, what template do you want for the right page, and then it just autofills everything in. So you could choose to have the left page blank and only have a one-sided book if you want to, or you could choose left and right side and then it would fill it. So I'm going to change this template here. I'm going to have, you can choose either a fixed layout or a random from your favorites. If you remember, I'm going to get out of here for a second. If you remember, when you're on a page, I showed you this briefly last week, you can click that drop down arrow, and here are all the different templates that you have to pick from and how you could favorite. Do you remember that? Or you could click that little button. Here, let me pick a different one. I can click that little circle button here, and it would mark it as a favorite. And then in my favorites panel, it didn't save my favorites, but in my favorites, all of them would show up. Anyone that I click on that I like, it would all show up there. You can, when you're in that auto layout, I'm going to go back in my edit auto layout presets, you can choose random from your favorites. So if you favorite certain layouts, you can have it just randomize and say, but I only want 3 images on a page. So you can say, out of all the layouts that I favorited, only choose the 3 photo ones and then just randomize it however you want. So you always have 3 photos on a page, so that's kind of cool. Otherwise, you can choose a fixed layout. And this is exactly how you would pick from from that page setting, that little drop down arrow that we were just in. You can do exactly that. I want multiple photos. Here we go. So let's say I'm making maybe let's try 4 photos per page. I'm trying to find one that has text with it. All I want are the captions underneath. There might not be one. I might have to create one. Well, that stinks. 3 photos. Yeah, I might have to actually create a layout. That's okay. We'll just pick one in the meantime. So let's say this is the one that has text underneath it or whatever, and this is the layout that I want. So every left page will have that layout. And then I can do the same thing for the right page. Maybe I want the right page to match. And every right page, well, maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's this one. Every right page will have this layout. That is the same one. Why do they look? Oh, there's a space in between it. There's not much difference there. Let's do this. And then you can choose how it zooms. Do you want the box to be filled with an image? So even if it's vertical, that it fills it to the horizontal frame? Or do you want it just to fit the image within the square so that you see all of every picture? So you would choose that. There's a match long edges, so that would actually resize the box to match whatever the longest edge is of any of your photos. And then you can choose to add photo text if you want to. So if you have, let's see, a line with photo, and then you can choose, like if this is the layout that I want, I can choose to put the caption, like the image number underneath, if this is like a proof book. I can choose to put the image number underneath if I wanted to, or a caption. Let's see, I think title would give me what I wanted. No, I need to save one. This is the only thing I don't like about auto layout. All the other menus you go in, you have the edit to option a preset. So like if I have a text style preset, in here I can't edit and add one on the fly. I have to go out of there into the text presets of the book, create one, and then go back in here. And I don't like that. Everywhere else you can add a preset on the fly. Here you can't. So that's the only thing that's kind of annoying, but that's okay. I'm going to add photo text. I'm just going to pick something. Oops, that was the same. And then when you're done, you simply just save it as a preset. Here's one you can save as a preset. Save current settings as a new preset. And I can call it like proof book if I want to. And then I hit done. So if I wanted to, I should probably choose something that doesn't have as many photos as this. Let me go back to here quick and only select a handful to auto layout. There we go. Now I'm going to go to the book, and I'm going to, it only has create saved book, book 2, I'll delete that later. No, why does it still have 600 photos? You're not supposed to. Photos remain in your catalog. Okay. That's annoying. I seriously. Grr. Select. Okay. Include only used photos. No. It should be doing just the ones I have highlighted. Alright, that's okay. Let's just cancel that. We're just going to do an auto layout. Okay, so I'm going to use my proof book layout. Now I can hit auto layout. It's going to use 600 images. But you can see that every page has the same layout, and eventually it is going to create like a 200-page book, and it's going to put every photo inside of there. And this would be much greater if it wasn't 600 pictures. Can I stop and it just leaves it where it is? Ah, look at that. Except for look at that. Why is it? Is it just not loading? Oh, it's just taking forever to show the previews, I think, of each of them. Maybe. You know what? Because I didn't let it finish auto laying out, I don't think it. Oh no, there it goes. It is just slow because there's a lot of images. So now when I go to any of these pages, you can see it auto laid out. Now I put the text underneath, but it didn't have a title or a caption, so it just says photo text. Otherwise, it would have auto-filled that information. See, it says custom text. I could just put date, and it would auto-fill that stuff in. So if I just saved a text preset, which we'll talk about later, it would auto-put that stuff in there for it. So now this one, obviously, this is for allowing me to type it in, but it doesn't auto-fill with something because it's a different type of text box. But you can see it created that whole book. So for a session, or for, let's say you're doing a commercial shot for someone and they just needed a quick little look at everything, that's what I would use auto layout for. Otherwise, I think it drives most people crazy, so I might not do that. Let's clear that book. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my other book here. So that's everything about auto layout. Use it if you find a use for it. If not, manually do everything like the majority of people will be doing. So I think we're just going to kind of work top to bottom here, which doesn't necessarily follow along with the book. He kind of jumps around a little bit with some of these things, but I think it's going to make the most sense and be the least confusing if we just work top to bottom. And let me get into, and everything you need to know about the books are in chapter 11. He does start out working with the auto page layout, so that is towards the beginning of that chapter if you do need to go back to it. Let's see here. I just want to make sure I'm not skipping anything in between there. Okay, I'm just going to work top to bottom. So we talked about book settings. You can always look back at last week's recording if you need to remember any of that stuff. Auto layout is what we just did. Now, we talked a little bit about the page layouts, how you can click on the page itself, click the drop-down arrow, change it, or with whatever page you have highlighted, you can change it here and do the same thing. Either way, same thing. It shows you a preview of that here. So if I wanted a 4-photo, let's do this. It'll show you the preview here and change the currently selected page. This is also where you would add a page or add a blank page. So, for example, if you did want, maybe you have, like, let's say chapters in your book and you just needed a blank left page before that next chapter. You just wanted it to be more impactful to have that blank page. You can add a blank page, so it will go with nothing on it, or that blank page could be a customizable template that you create too. You can start with a blank page and add whatever you want to it. So it could become something, or it could just be nothing. When you add a page, it will automatically use whatever this last layout is in this page preview. It's going to add that in automatically. Again, obviously you can change it, but it always uses the last one. The other thing in this page module or tab is page numbers. Page numbers is either an all on or all off kind of a deal. In your project, you are going to turn page numbers on. So with page numbers on, you do have the option of where you want the page number displayed. You can be creative and have it on the side. It will be centered on the outer edge of whatever page it is. So either the left side on the left page or the right side on the right page. And if I zoom in here, you can see it puts the page numbers. Now, if you don't like something about the page numbers, the size, the text that's being used, that kind of stuff, you can change that at any time. Just know it, and I have found this to not be 100% consistent, but if you change one page, it's going to change all of them. So if I change the text font and size of the right side, all the right side pages are going to mimic that. Same for the left side. But there is a text module down here, or I mean type, sorry. You have to go to type and not text, where I could change that if I wanted to. So if I didn't like how big the numbers were, I could take that down to like a 12-point font. Oops. I want that to be exactly 12. But it's kind of a pain. So I could take that to a 12-point font. And if I didn't like the text, I could change it to something else. I have no idea what Marion looks like, but that's what we're going to choose. Oh, you know what? It changed both of them. I thought I had to do left and right independently. I am wrong. But you can see now it always does. It'll do all the pages now. And so they're all gonna match. I seriously thought left and right were different. Now I also thought there was an option, and I must be thinking of a different page layout program, because it is not in here, where you can actually skip the page numbering on the first page and start on the second page. I could have sworn we did that in Lightroom, but I think I'm wrong. Blurb. Adding captions. I swear I'm missing it. Oh, adding and customizing page numbers. Start at page number. There it is. It was in here. Choose where the page numbering starts. Right-clicking directly on the page number. Oh, there we go. There it is. Okay. It's not easy to find. Right-clicking is always like that go-to option in Lightroom. If you can't find something, it seems to be there. So right-clicking on a page number, once you apply them, you can choose down at the bottom here, you can choose to hide the page number, but you can choose to start page number if you want to, start page number is shown here. Oh, that's what it is. Sorry. So if I want page 2 to be the first page, if I right click here and I do start page number, it will change that to a 1. So whatever page I want to be number 1, I thought I could hide the first page, but I can start and change the page number. I can right click on whatever page that is, and that would be the start page number. So if you have like an intro page and then a blank page, and then that third page of the book is actually the first one where everything starts, that would be the one. I could go right here and I could say this would be the start page number. So the first 2 pages don't have any numbering. Those could be text, whatever you want them to be. This would actually be the first page of the book. Like when you read a novel, there's always all those pages at the beginning and then the first page, 10 pages in. You could do the same thing here if you want to. But I thought I could hide that on the first page and then start numbering from there on out, and I'm wrong. Oh, that's what I have to do. I'm sorry. I could do that. Start page number here. Okay, let's say page number 1 I want to be 1, but I don't want it to actually start until page 2. There are some books that do that, like the very first page is like a full page image. You don't want the number to distract from that full page, so you start the page numbering on 2. If I do hide page number, if I hide page number here, it still keeps it in order. This is still page 2 and 3. This is still page 1, it just doesn't show it. So same thing if I have, like, let's say like a chapter or different sections, and I have those, you know, the left page is the blank page, the right page starts that new section or whatever it is. I can hide the page number from that page but keep the ordering of all the pages. So simply right click and either hide show page number if you want to hide it, or change the start page for what page number 1 is, and then it will apply it and fix it for the rest of the book. Fixing type, simply select it here, go to the type tab down here, and change it to whatever you want. Make sense? Just yell when something doesn't make sense like normal. Okay, so working top to bottom, the next one is guides. Guides are basically on or off, but you have a couple of guide options that you can turn on and off. For example, I always choose to leave the guides on. To be honest, I would only turn them off if you just want to see a full page preview without those distractions. But otherwise, when you're building the book, just leave it on. You're going to thank yourself for leaving it on, especially for the checkbox that says text safe area. Because if you don't have that text safe area, which is usually the guide that you see, the one you pay the most attention to, if you put text outside of that text safe area, you send it to a printer, a lot of times they trim in just a little bit when they're cutting, especially for, we call it full bleed, an image that, here, let me get one of those pages, one page. Especially for an image that covers a full page, when it comes off the printer, it doesn't come off that way. They have to trim the paper down to that size to cut off any borders. So there's a slight chance that if it doesn't trim exactly centered, that it might trim off some text. So you keep your text within that text safe area, and then you know you're fine. So it's always good to leave that text safe area on. Photo cells is simply the placeholder boxes. So like here, it's simply leaving those on so you know where to drop your pictures. I don't know who would turn that off. That to me doesn't make sense. Again, the only time I would turn that off is if I'm not putting an image somewhere and I really want that to go away without opening Color Monkey. The only time I would turn that off is if I'm not dropping something there and I just want to see what the page looks like without it. Otherwise, you have filler text, which I turned on in my preferences and noticed that it's not there. I need to let me change one of these pages to have something with text. There we go. So you have your text boxes that show up here. If I put on filler text, it's just going to put in gibberish. It's just going to put lorem ipsum in there. Kind of like a placeholder just to show you what the text is going to look like on the page before you put text in it. When you go to type, it just deletes it automatically when you click on the box so that you can type whatever you want. But it's simply there as a placeholder just to show you what the text will look like. That's just whatever your preference is. By default, it is turned off. Some people do like to have it on because then they don't forget that there's a text box there as they're laying it out. So that's never a bad thing. Page bleed, that only applies in certain areas, so we're not going to worry so much about that. But these two, the default ones, seriously, I would just leave them on unless you're proofing it at the end. Now, let's do this manually. Let's talk a little about the cell. So the cell, what the cell is basically that box that you can either type in or the box that you would drop a photo into. So if I drop a photo into here and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh man, I guess this might not be the best layout to use as an example here. Let me get a multiple page layout. Let's do a 4 and get this one. Here we go. So let's say I have a page layout and I'm dropping in some images and I'm like, man, you know what? These images are pretty similar. I don't like that they're right next to each other. I'd like just a little bit of a cushion in between there. Rather than pick a whole different layout for that page and have to redrop images in, one thing you can do is change the cell padding. It's like working in a table, basically in Word is what it is. I can change the padding of it. And this cell padding here, I can expand or increase the point padding. So right now it's a 34 point padding in there, means the box is still the size that it is, but it's putting a cushion and bringing in guides to where the image actually can go within there. So it creates a little bit of a cushion. And whatever box or photo box or text box that I have clicked on, I can change the padding for that selected box. Now, if you notice, it does it uniformly. So all 4 sides are exactly equal. And sometimes you just don't want that. So guess what? You can change that. There's a little disclosure triangle up here. If you open it up, you will see that you can work each one individually if link all is not turned on. Here's another thing I don't like. Everything else has checkboxes. This is simply a highlighted box, so you're assuming nothing's checked. But in fact, because it's a light gray, it is checked. If I uncheck link all, it goes to dark gray. It's annoying that that's not consistent with all the other checkboxes. They should all be checked. It's my slight beef with Lightroom right now. But if you uncheck linked all, or you just uncheck a simple one, you could definitely do that. But now I could choose to just bring in the left a little bit or the top, whatever it is. Maybe I want the bottom to come up just a little bit because I want to put text right underneath there or something. I can choose the cell padding in order to add that text underneath. So you can move them individually if you click this disclosure triangle and unlink them. When it's closed, it's automatically going to link all of them. So it is up to you what you want to do. And like I said, that will hold true for text. It'd help if I had a page with text on it. Add a page, put some text. Let's add some filler text in there. There we go. So if I had a page with text and I go to the cell, I can choose to bring in the guides there. Now sometimes you just want to eyeball it, and I totally get that. You can grab, maybe, why is it not letting me do it? I can always grab it, I just did it with the photo. Maybe text boxes I can't. That's weird. Now I can do it. Okay, I guess if I'm trying to type in it, it disables it. You can use these little guides. When you get the little 2 arrows with the line in the middle, you can grab and drag the guides in right on the page without having to go to this cell tab if you want to. If you unlink them all, then you can grab them individually and do whatever it is that you want to do. So if I want them to be like this, I could do that. So you can do it in the book, or you can do it in the actual tab panel, whatever you want to call it yourself. That's a new button. Wow, that is a new button. I've never had it when I clicked on a photo box before that it says add photo text. That's new. I like that. That must have been the most recent update because mine doesn't do that. Okay, well, that's kind of cool. Let me undo that. Come on. All right, we'll come back to that one. So honestly, that's everything about cell padding. It's nothing too extravagant. It's just knowing what it is. And that leads us right to photo text, which is awesome because I just discovered this button. Seriously, I don't remember that coming up when I clicked on. Oh, it
I have
is.
a problem with the, like,
Do you?
actually exporting the text. Like, it's refusing the,
It's coming up blank.
well, it just says could not apply the text to the PDF or something.
Oh, I wonder if it's an unsupported font, maybe. Is it an...
I changed the font because
Oh, you did?
I'm working on a Mac and not my computer, but
Yeah.
it's giving me issues.
Huh.
And I only have text on 3 pages.
I had... You know what? That is one of the problems we were having. I had... Was it Doug's? Or was it... Doug's was the background that we had issues with. We had some people where their text boxes, a couple of them would show up and some of them wouldn't. And we have no idea why. So there are a few little inconsistencies when we're exporting, and I'm hoping maybe we'll have some less problems with that, but that's interesting that it's giving you that flag even if you change the font. Because a lot of times when we change the font, it kind of resolves it. Are you doing a PDF or a JPEG?
PDF. It says an error occurred while saving the book.
While saving the book. Yep.
An error
Check that your
occurred in
backgrounds
context.
show up too. See if your backgrounds show up, because when we get that error, it's usually the backgrounds that don't show up too. That's
My background's
interesting.
showing up. Weird.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'll make a note to research that a little bit more, see if there is like a workaround for it that, since Adobe hasn't fixed that yet. Text error in book. The nice thing is I'm going to have you guys submit your libraries for this. So as long as you create your saved book, even if it doesn't export perfectly, being able to go into your book and see it is going to fix that issue. In the past, I always had everyone just submit the book and nothing else, but because of those issues, it's like I'm grading it and there's no background thing. I'm like, well, I got to take points off for that. They're like, but it was there, it just didn't export. So they started screenshotting everything, and I'm like, how about we just submit the catalog and then we'll be fine. So we're going to do that this time. Okay, so the next thing down talks about the text. So text and type work hand in hand, but they are two different things. One is the text has to do with adding text to a page. So it's actual text box. The actual text, like the type, the font, the size, that kind of stuff, that falls under the type. So all of your left adjustment, right alignment, that kind of stuff, that all comes under the type tab, where the actual adding of the boxes comes under the text tab. So one new thing they added that I did not know until just now is that you can add photo text. I know it shows it in the book, but it never showed up for me before. So I thought it was a thing in a previous version that they took away, and maybe now they brought it back again. I don't know. So you can add, you can apply. This is why it's nice when you're going through the library module and you're organizing to add keywords or add captions or something like that, because when you get to this point, you can simply say on this image, or maybe I should say this image, I want to add photo text, and you can tell it to add very specific text. So it says photo text right now where I could type into it, or I could choose a preset that I create that adds something to it. And that falls under this text module over here. Right now it says custom text. By default, when you add it to a page, it will just do custom text, assuming you just want to type something, which you could. But you could also choose to put like the file name in there. You know, if you're doing just a quick little proof book, file name is probably all that you need to put in there, because people just want to know what image number to order or what they like and that kind of stuff. So you can choose one of these, or you can edit. You can choose to edit and add whatever text options that you want here. So I could say maybe I want the file name and the date. I could do file name space, and then I could add the date, which is down here. It's under numbering, but you can see it's not just the date. I could do month, date, year if I wanted to. Do it that way. It would add it up there automatically. So it's saying this is how it's going to display. I can add my own custom text in here if I want to. So I can do, or maybe a forward slash. There we go. So I can do name space, line down space, date. And that could be the text that I add to all of this stuff. So I could save this as a new one, save as new preset, file, name, and date. Oops. There we go. So file, name, and date. Oop, apparently my and doesn't go in there. That's okay. So now here's a new preset. So I can click on any image that I want to, and I can add photo text, and I can do file, name, date. And it will put it on all of those. Now the other thing with the text, you're gonna see these little boxes here, little square boxes. This is how it's anchored to the image. When you add photo text, it is tied to the image. It has to be linked in a way, because if you just add a text box, it's not linked to any metadata. And I want to add in metadata that's specific, or caption lines that are specific to the metadata. And so it's anchored, essentially, is what it is, to the image. But I can choose to anchor it wherever I want. I can grab and move that box. Right now, it's centered. You'll see this box move, like as I move it up into the image, it moves that anchor point to the inside of the image. Whereas I move it down, it anchors it outside of the image. And over here, on this side here, you can see it will change one of these check boxes. So if I grab this and I move it up, you can see it changes from below to over right here. I can grab and move it, and depending on how I move it, not this one, Certain ones let me grab and anchor it to different spots here, but this one only lets me do above or below. So I could move it to the top of the image if I wanted to. It's still anchored to the bottom, and so many points offset. You can see this offset slider. It's offset so many points from below, which is the bottom anchor point. So I can use this slider, but I find just grabbing and dragging it to be even easier. So if you have, maybe you have an image on a page, you have some text about the image, but then you want the image number and the date, I could actually anchor this all the way at the bottom of the page if I wanted to. It's still tied to that picture and pulling the metadata from it. So you can kind of choose whatever you want to do. This is also a nice time like, oh, I want to move this here, but on the image itself, I want to move, I want to let me move my anchor points. I want to move the bottom one. Come on. I want to let me grab, that's weird. Won't let me grab that bottom. That's okay. We'll do it this way. So I can change how it's anchored. This might be where you bring in the cell padding for that exact reason. Maybe you want it close to the bottom of the image, but the image itself, there we go. You just still want it to fit in that box. So photo text is always linked to a photo. You can do above, below, or over the image. The other option is page text. I'm going to delete this one. I don't want to remove page. I want to remove this cell because it's not a custom page. It won't let me remove it. That's okay. We'll work with it. Now I can choose to add page text if I want to. Now page text is a little different. I can anchor it either to the top or the bottom of the page. You'll see page text appears with a yellow box versus the gray box for the photo boxes. So that's your first indication, not that you're going to remember that, trust me, you're not going to remember that. The gray box means it's anchored to a photo, the yellow box means it's anchored to a page. That's the only difference between the two. You're not going to remember until you start trying to drag it around, then you'll realize that this is a page text. Page text will always be a custom text. So it's not going to be something where you can fill in with metadata, because it's not anchored to an image. So if you want to manually type stuff into a page, you use page text. If you want to pull metadata, you have to use a photo text. That's the only way that's going to work. But you have the top bottom anchor and you have the offset slider, just like you do the photo. So it's the same thing. Page text, sorry. When you try and offset it, it will automatically anchor within the guidelines. You can't go beyond that. You can only go within those guides, or the safe guides. Let's anchor that back to the bottom. Nope. Turn off photo text for that one. So, other than the text boxes, those are the two types of text boxes you can do. If you want, let's say you want a text box, but you want a text box that only appears on the right half of this page. There's a different way of doing that. Let me get your page reference for that. Where does he talk about text? There's your text box. If you want it to, it's the custom page. You have to build a custom page in order to build it like that. But the workaround for this, where's this custom template? Oh no, that's the workaround. But the workaround for text, if I want text but I only want it to be on the right side of this particular page, you have to change the cell padding for the text box. That's the only way to do that. You would just drag in the text from the left here. Come on. Oh, it's linked. I don't want left and right. Here we go. Right, move, left. There we go. So you have to drag in the cell padding from the left in order to get it just to be on that right-hand side. So all I did was go cell padding, made sure I unlinked the left and the right, and then I just dragged it over. So it's about 300 plus points over. But now as I type text and it overflows. Continue to be offset because of cell padding. So you can see it will just continue to expand the text. It will push that text up as I add lines because I don't want to go beyond the safe text, so it just keeps pushing up. If I'm beyond this, let me move this box. If I move it up, it will start typing down then automatically. So that's kind of how it works. But simply dragging that cell padding in, that's going to be your workaround. And the same thing, if you have a text box but you want your images on the left, you just do your cell padding from the right rather than the left, and then it will keep it on that left side of the page. Kind of a weird workaround, but that's the only way to do it. The type tab's pretty self-explanatory. Text, font, size, opacity. I like that there's an opacity thing in there. You can change the color of your text too. So if you want the text to be a different color in that character box here, you can simply, click on the black. It's a black text by default, but if it's over an image, you'd rather it be white text. You can come in here, you can simply choose white. Now granted, anything after this point is going to be white text. If I wanted my current text, obviously I would have to select it first and then change that to white text. Now it's all white. So you can change it to whatever color you want. You simply go within here, drag this up, because it's basically the saturation of the color. So if you want less saturated color, you come down in this area. Now you have colors to choose from. And that could be your color if you wanted to. Boop. Now that's going to be my text color from here on out that you can't see. Always picks a text color that you can see. I usually steer people away from a bunch of colored text. I think for like titles and stuff like that, the main pages, that's fine. For your overall text on a page, honestly, I'd probably stick to white or black. It's cleaner, it looks nicer. Same thing with fonts. It's just a standard, like in design. When you're building something, you don't use more than 2 fonts because otherwise it gets to be too much. I would say the same thing with colors. Don't use more than 2 colors for text. Same thing with backgrounds too. That would be kind of the standard for the backgrounds. Don't go too crazy with it because people are going to pay attention. It's like in DSLR video class when we were talking about that. Some of you have taken it. Don't use more than 2 different transitions from one to the next in a slideshow. We're going to talk about slideshows briefly coming up, actually next week. And it's kind of that same thing. Just don't go overboard with the colors, the fonts, the different size text, stuff like that. So just kind of keep it clean. Makes it easier. You want the attention to be on the photos, not so much the text. But yeah, anything else here is pretty standard. Do you want your text to be aligned vertically at the top? Do you want it to be center aligned, or do you want it aligned to the bottom? So if you have a big text box, it would start at the bottom and fill up. If you would rather it be centered from where it's aligned, I could choose to center this text. Usually that's for text boxes that you don't add, that are already in place. For example, if I use, here, this one's blank. No, I'm not doing background. Not background. Yeah. Let's choose this one had one. There we go. So if I have one with text and I'm typing a bunch of stuff in it, do I want that to be center aligned rather than at the top? It's cleaner sometimes depending on the text that you're adding into it. So that's what that one would be. But otherwise, this is self-explanatory. You can choose, and I highly recommend doing this. This is where, when we were just talking about the auto page layout, if you remember, it wouldn't let us edit a preset and then put it in the auto page layout, this is where you would add it. You would add it in the type, and then you would, there isn't like another pop-up window for this. Maybe that's why you can't do it in that auto page layout. But whatever settings you have here, you can choose under here to save as a new preset. I highly recommend doing that. I think it works well. These caption titles aren't necessarily like the title of an image because it's not linked to an image. It's like a title text. So it's going to be a larger size. You can see it's a 24 size font. So it's always a larger size. Let's highlight that. Choose one of these. Title serif. So you can see it's a much larger font. But feel free to create your own in there. I think those are always nice to have. Let's see. What else can we do? If you create a blank page, which I just filled my blank page with something, let's make this one, let's just add a blank page. If you create a blank page, you can start adding in what you want. You can start adding in, where is it? Page guides. So, add blank page. Where's my add photo? What if I did this? No. I used to be able to do that on a blank page. I used to be able just to drop a photo in here. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of the layout tab, or the print tab. Okay, I'm actually gonna take you into the print tab briefly before we finish with our book today. Okay, so with the book, I'm gonna come back to this, but with the book, you are limited to what these preset pages are. So all of these preset pages and what they have to offer, you are limited to that and just that. You can add text and stuff like that. You can save, let's see, if I have a page, is it not going to let me do this? No, it is not going to let me save. Come on, where's my save page? Here we go. So if I modify any page, if I add text boxes, like if this one, not that I think this is like the choice layout that I would choose. Come on. Now because of this text box, I can't get to this guide here. Guide, cell padding, unlink, left, right, top. There we go. So if I find, yay, this is the most spectacular layout ever, I want to use this over and over again, I can create a custom page from one of my changes to an existing layout. So if you right click on any page, if I can get it to work, you can do save as custom page. And what it will do is it will add, here's my custom page layout. It now resides inside a custom page tab that magically shows up. So if you modify and create your own and you want to use it again, maybe that 4-page layout you want to add text underneath and that doesn't exist, you can do that. So I can create that saved page layout, it creates a custom page there, and now I can use that. I can go and add maybe page 5 here. This is what I want to use it on. So this page here, I want this to be my custom page. Now I have a custom page. And when I drop an image in here, let's just pick a different image. It didn't add, there it is. I was gonna say, where's my text? Oh, my text is too, why is my text not showing up? It's there. It's like my text box is too small. Oh, you know what? It's white. It's white text. That's the problem. That's weird. It wasn't white text on this page. And this text is black and it was white on the other page. Well, that's interesting. That should not happen that way. This should be white and it's shown up as black. And this should be black and it was showing up as white. Why on earth would it do that?
Lightroom hate text.
Lightroom hates text. We're going to go with that one. That's a really good answer. Custom
Because it
page.
exported my cover, but not the rest.
So it only did the cover? Yeah, the cover page will always be a separate PDF from the rest of it.
I mean, JPEG works.
But does it?
Yeah. PDF refuses to work past the cover.
That's weird. So what if you just create a JPEG and I can show you how to put it all together in a PDF as one document?
Sure.
It's easy to do. It's actually like an automated thing. I'll show you how to do that. I'll show everyone how to do that in case everyone has that issue. Okay, I'm going to find out why my custom page text is. Not that you have to worry about it, but if you want to use a page that you've modified over and over again, that's where you would right-click and save as custom page. But if you do that and you have text and it screws it up, I want to find out why. I'll see if I can't get to the bottom of why that's happening, because that's ridiculous. And this is weird too. My preview is showing that I have a page 6 with type on it. I don't even have a page 6. I only have page 5, and it's showing page 4 and 5 backwards. Oh, now it's showing it right. What the heck? There's lots of bugs. Preview. Has anyone updated to the Lightroom Classic yet? No one? Okay. I'm hoping to ride out that upgrade until the end of the semester.
Decline.
Because we had a meeting with IT yesterday to ask if, like, what were the immediate upgrades that we needed, and they pointed to me, and I said, well, I haven't had anyone upgrade that I know of, and that has had an issue, because obviously your catalog in a newer version won't open in this version. So I'm hoping to hold off to the end of the semester, because then we're going to push all of Adobe CC 2018 to all the computers. So I'm hoping we can ride it out to the end of the semester, but it's an easy, it's an update that I could get done if we need to, but if we don't have to, I'm not going to worry about it. But if these book issues are fixed in the classic version, I might have him push that. So I'm going to look into that, because that could be a fixable issue while you guys are doing your book projects. Okay, so really the only other thing that's in these tabs that we have not talked about is the background. Backgrounds are pretty easy to figure out, but a little weird at the same time. Now they do have background graphics that you can choose from that are pre-built in here. So I could choose, let me go on this page here. I could choose this background graphic. Now here's the thing to know about background graphics. Look at this before you drop in a graphic, or you're going to have to undo it. This little checkbox here. Apply background globally. That's going to put it on every stinking page of your book. If you don't want that, uncheck it before you do anything background related. That's important. Now, you can choose to have a photo as a background. The good and bad thing about that is you only have, here, let me grab something here. I want something that has some detail, but it's a little bit lighter. Let's just grab this one. You have to grab it from your timeline and drag and drop it in there. Hello, come on in. It's workflow. You can sit in here if you want. Yeah, just sit in here. Don't worry, we got space. We've got space. So when you drag and drop an image there, it fills the page automatically. The one downfall is I can't reposition an image like I can in these photo cells. So when I click on a photo cell, I can choose to zoom. I can move it around if I want to. I can't do that to a background. It just puts it there and I'm done. So that is one thing to be aware of. It might be a specific crop. If it's something you're looking at, you want a certain part of an image, or you want it zoomed to a certain part of an image, I would take that into the develop module and maybe create a virtual copy and crop it exactly to what I want that page size to be. So like this particular one is an 8x10 book, hardcover, image wrap, standard landscape, 8x10 book. So I would crop it to that 4:5 aspect ratio or 8:10 aspect ratio to my exact crop. So just be aware of that. You do have those limitations. But one thing you do have, if I click back on this page, I do have the ability to change the opacity of it. So I do have that control. That's nice. If you do want the background image to be like black and white, stuff like that, and you're using an image, you need to do that first. So you need to create a virtual copy of it, make a black and white, and then drop that in there. Because you don't have the ability to necessarily change that after the fact. I could change this image. I could take this image into the develop module. Come on, maybe. Someday. I'm noticing my presets, even though I told it to come with the book, it's not coming with it. Let's do this black and white. So if I change this to black and white, go back to the book module. Oh, I was gonna say it took it out. Nope, it changed my image to black and white here. So I can do that on the fly, but if I wanted to use that image elsewhere, it's gonna be black and white. So I would rather you create a virtual copy so that you have the one for the background page and the one that you want somewhere else if you're using it in another spot. Or take it into Photoshop, have that second copy, whatever it is you want to do. So you can do that on the fly if you want to. You can change the overall opacity. And then you can also choose, if you want to, have the page be a different color other than white. I don't care if you do that to your whole book. You could be Doug who hates white pages and change the background of your book. So I could choose a different background color if I wanted to. I have to check background color because white's the default. And then I would click here and I could say, hey, I want a pink background for all my pages. It's cringeworthy is what it is. Or I could choose just a real faint neutral, there we go, color right here. So you can change the background color. Now what's also cool is if you wanted your background image on your page to have a color, I could add a background color with the image. That's scary. So I could have, like a tannish color to make it look sepia toned or something, or I could leave it color but then have, with the opacity, have the color page background showing behind it. So you could choose that. And the same thing goes for a page. Let's say instead of a photo, if I click the little drop down arrow, I can choose like a graphic that's in here. I can choose travel. I can choose a travel background, but I don't want it to be black and white. I could choose to add a color to my background if I wanted to, so that it's not just the plain black and white, because they're all black and white by default. That's hideous. Don't make your colors overpowering if you add a color. And pay attention to text. If you add a background color, pay attention to the color of your text. You got to be able to read it. You may have to change it from like black to white or something like that. Make it lighter or darker. I can't stand it. There we go. And that person who wants my photos to pop out no matter what type of a book I'm creating, so it's either a solid black or a solid white background. Sometimes I'd put a graphic background really light just to add texture, but otherwise it's usually a solid color. But let's make that black. There we go. But then the text now has to be white. No, is it going to do it? Come on. Do what I asked you to do. Is that white? It's highlighted. No, it's not. No wonder why. There we go. Now it's white. There we go. So yeah, so pay attention to whatever your background text is, especially if you do like a darker page like that. This is where once I'm done, I would turn the guides off just to see what it looks like when I'm all done. Make sure everything's aligned properly. But that's pretty much everything for the background. It's not too bad. Most of this is clicking around and playing. But there's a few little things to pay attention to. Trying to think. Any questions so far? I just want to know about layout templates. Did I skip? Okay. Nothing. You guys are so quiet. There's one more thing. Oh, I'm doing pretty good on my time here. Okay. There is one more thing that you can do that is custom layout related. Do I want to... Okay, I showed you that custom text. Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit. Okay, so the very last thing in this chapter, he has a really interesting way to work around a template. If you want to create a layout and it's not anything that's here, there's a trick, and it involves the print menu. I like going to this because I think we have some fun options here. So we're going to go to the print menu in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about it, and there's a lot of cool options in here. But for your book, if you wanted to advance the layout of your book just a little bit, this is an option for you. If you go to the print module, the print module allows us to create templates, create picture packages and stuff like that, where it's simply just drop and then send it off to print, or create a JPEG from it, whatever it may be. But you can use this for your books too, and I like using this when I can't find exactly what I want. You can choose, we're going to go through all this stuff, but the last thing in your book, it's on 402, it's only a 2-page deal. He talks about creating this custom size page. If you go to this custom package, that's all we need to know right now, is that we want to go to a custom package. We want this page to be a certain size here. So I can, where is it? Is it because I have JPEG selected? Why won't it let me create my own custom print? Nope. Seriously. Is it down at the bottom? It is. Custom file dimensions. I can choose. So here's the thing we have to know. We have to be in a custom package because we want to customize this. At the bottom, which I think it's a little backwards here, you can choose to print to a JPEG file, which is what you would want in this case. You have the option of sending it right to a printer, selecting a printer, and it goes to print. Or you have the option of saving this as a JPEG and then sending it to a printer, uploading it wherever you want. So in this print module, if you go to JPEG file, you can choose the resolution, which I would do a high res, so a 240 resolution. I'm going to leave print sharpening JPEG quality high. But I'm going to change the dimension of this particular page to be the page of my book. So I'm going to change it to 10 inches by 8 inches because that's the size book I've created. I have a template up already, but I'm just going to delete these, go back to the start. And I can actually lay out, and this is what I was thinking when I was talking custom pages before, I can actually add a cell or like a photo box placeholder onto this page and make it whatever it is that I want. So I can say here, add a 4x6, but then I can make it whatever size I want and move it wherever it is that I want. So I could do I can overlay images. I can do, oops, 5x7 is too big. It's putting it on a new page. Let's just do another 4x6 box and make it like this. So I can make whatever weird layout I want. This just doesn't balance for me. I have to change it. Work. that. I'm going to duplicate this one over here and duplicate it again up here. I'm going to use my grids kind of, sort of. I want this. There we go. It's a little bit better. So I can create my own custom layout if I want to. Now the thing I would have to do is I would have to lay it out here, save it as a JPEG, and then plop it as a full page image in my book. So that's what I'm going to show you. So if I want to, first of all, where's my, come on, that's as small as I can make that on here. Okay. So let's get a handful of images. So I basically am creating photo boxes is what I'm doing. And I'm just going to then drag and drop my images in one of the squares. The only thing is I can't reposition the image inside there, as far as I know. I can't reposition my image inside there. That's one of the downfalls of the print module. I need something that's somewhat square. Sure. I'm going to rearrange these in a second. Doink. And sure. Plop these in here. So I want this image to be on top, send to front. That image I'm going to go back. This one I'm going to send backwards. There we go. So I'm just going to reposition this however it is I want. Now this one has some cell padding going on in it. It is a adjusted cell. Here we go, photo border. I'm going to change that just a little bit. I'm going to make the background black. Page. Did I pass it? Everything's in a different order when you're in this one versus the other. Rulers, guides, cells, background color. There it is. Make the page black. There we go. So I have my own custom page layout. I can save this in the print module if I want to, much like we did presets in the develop module. So template browser right here. I can save this as, I don't know, photo book for images. I don't know. Great. And then it will always hide underneath these user templates so I can use it again if I want to. So what I would do is once I create in this print module, again, we're going to go through it, so I'm just kind of breezing over this just to give you a basic idea. I can, as long as it says JPEG filed here, now I can print to file. It would add it as a JPEG. I'll just save it to the desktop right now. Book, page 6. I don't know what page it is. But I want it to add it into Lightroom automatically. And it doesn't look like it wants to. So it's creating this print. I thought there was a setting that I could. I thought there was a setting that it would add it in here automatically. But I'm thinking I'm wrong. General. I'm going to finish importing, finish exporting photos. Darn. I thought there was one that I could add it in automatically. Man. Lightroom Mobile Network, it's not going to be under there. Okay. Seriously, I thought I could. Darn. But once it is done, I could just import photos and video if I wanted to, and I could go to my desktop and I could choose uncheck all, and if I can find my photo page. I hate that it automatically goes inside subfolders. There we go. There it is. This one I'm going to import to a collection, and I'm going to choose wherever I put it. I swear I know my alphabet, but it's inside here. That's why I can't find it. There we go. I'm just going to put it inside my thing that I'm doing. Import it. There it is. And I'm going to put it inside my book that I'm working on. Is this the one I was doing? book module. There it is. So I had to re-import it, which is kind of a pain. I swear, I will look it up. I swear there's a way you can do it so it auto-imports after it saves it. But I find it weird that it didn't do that. I swear there's a checkbox somewhere that I'm missing. So what I can do now for my book is I can simply add a new page. I'm going to add a page that is a one photo layout and a full page spread. So I'm going to add a new page that's just a full page spread, and then drag and drop. Boop. So there's my page. So this is a custom layout. You can see it shifted it just a little bit. I probably should have used better guidelines there so it doesn't cut off my image. But I used a custom layout. I dropped it into my book. And now if I have to change an image, I do have to go back to the print module, make that change, and then export the JPEG again. That is the only downfall, but this is the workaround to do a custom layout that's not available inside the book itself. And you could do the same thing, even if you didn't like going to the print module to do that. Get a Photoshop document, drop a bunch of images in however you want, save that Photoshop document as a file, and just drop it in as one single image. To be honest, it might be easier to do it that way, just because if you need to edit it, you can reopen the Photoshop file as original with all the layers, make that change, save it, and it will update it in your book. So honestly, it would probably be easier to do a Photoshop document. So you could do it either way, but that's one workaround for a book, for a custom layout, and then just drag it in a full page image, and then you're good to go. Woohoo! There are some great tips. Those killer tips at the end of this, chapter has some really good things as far as when you put your book together, like a couple of text options, stuff like that, like a workaround if you want to add multiple captions or adding captions under multiple photos at one time. It talks about how to do that and stuff like that, locking the position of your text so you don't accidentally move it. So you'd really enjoy the tips for that. It might help you out with your books, so I really, really recommend reading through that. But other than that, we've pretty much talked about anything and everything book related as far as putting it together. The only thing I'll show you, obviously exporting the book, that's kind of an important piece. I need to create a cover. I need something. Sure. And I need cover text. Page text. I don't think I spelled that right. Okay, let me just add a text to this, and then something that's not... I wish they would show you the previews of the fonts, because unless you memorize all of these fonts, you don't really remember what they all look like. I know what I want, but I know it's not on this computer, so we'll just go with that. Blah. There we go. Oh, that font does not stand out against that background. So, problem solved. We move it down here. Yay! Oh, the only thing I didn't tell you, there is a drop-down arrow next to the character in the type command to do tracking baseline, your leading, your kerning, that kind of stuff. If you want multiple columns and you have the ability to do that, some of that stuff falls with under that little drop-down disclosure triangle right there. So you can do that. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, so I have a book with a cover. Now exporting. Exporting is simply, as long as you have either book layout to PDF or JPEG, it'll say at the bottom, export book to JPEG or export to PDF. I'm going to see what PDF does for me. If it says blurb, you'll run into some problems. So you'll know when you go to export if you did it right or wrong. So when you're done, on the right-hand side is your export to PDF button. Like I said, it is going to export your book you're going to do the book cover as one PDF and the pages as another PDF. So do not freak out when you get two files. That's just how it works. I'm going to create a new folder here, book, just so I don't make my desktop any more of a mess than it is. Okay, so I'm going to save this. It may or may not give us an error. I don't have all my photos filled in, so it's going to look like a pretty sad looking book by the time it's done. But it does take a little bit, kind of like it does with any exporting that we do. And when you're done...
Didn't give you the error.
It didn't give me the error. I didn't put a whole lot in there. I think it has to do with a font more than anything.
It's alright, I already have my PDF made.
Yeah, I'll show you a workaround if you guys run into problems with it. Okay, workflow, book. So I have my PDF as a cover. It's one single page. My spine is a different, you can put text and stuff in the spine. I didn't on mine. Soft cover books won't let you do that. Hardcover books have a spine and you have the ability to add text in there. The book pages themselves all come up as separate individual pages. The only thing I have to know is that my first page, or that first left page, is the inside of the cover, so it's blank. So this is the right side of the book. So if you have a page that is a 2-page spread, maybe I should have done that when I was creating the book. Let's make this a 2-page spread and just export it so you can see what happens. Let's do, sure. It's really not a great image, but we're going to export that. Let's do that again. So what you're going to see with that 2-page spread, it's going to look off and it freaks people out, but it's because that first page is the right page. When you look at it, it's going to cut it, it's going to chop it up weird. It doesn't save a 2-page spread as one page, it cuts it and saves it as 2 pages, which is fine. It's just unnerving to some people. So you can see it looks like that, cuts and then cuts. So just be aware, it's going to do that. It's not a big deal. That's just the way these books work. And why does that look like it's a square? No, it's not. Okay. So that's how your book is going to export. Now, if you have a problem that's similar to what Ashton's having, where your text is giving you an error or it throws you an error or you export, please, 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 please look at your book after it exports, because I don't want it. Kale. You still have kale? That's awesome.
It's like Brussels sprouts. I guess it gets better after the frost. So I think another couple days now.
I bought Brussels sprouts when I was at Trader Joe's. I don't know why. I never knew how they grew.
Oh, yeah.
This long stalk and there's.
And it's
I
very
never knew how
cool.
they grew.
I'm gonna do it
I
next
wanna
year.
plant
I'm gonna
some.
try.
I'm like, how did I? Even my husband said, how did I not know this?
Oh.
So we bought it and we didn't cook it fast enough and it all wilted and got nasty. We're like, it was really cool to look at though.
Aw.
But yeah, we didn't eat them fast
That's
enough.
what I put in the soup you commented on.
Is that what you put in it? Was it your Italian? Oh. Yeah, I need to make that. I saw that and I'm like, oh, that looks so good. But it was like 4:15. I'm like, I'm not going to get anything done in 45 minutes.
Yeah, no. Anyway.
Yay! Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Man, I can make a sweet Portuguese dish with that.
With the kale?
Yeah.
She's got so much of it, seriously.
She's right. After my kale gets the first frost,
Yeah.
I leave like a few out, gets the first frost. I pull it out and it gets really like a sweeter flavor.
Does it?
And I do, and since we hunt, we plant food plots and plant alfalfa.
Oh, yeah.
And we also plant like a few other versions of like clovers. And
Ooh.
you should see after the frost, the deer.
What it does.
They just pummel it. It's crazy.
Yum.
But yeah, it's totally true.
Yay. I've
So
tried.
I'm
It
just
never
saying that
grows.
about Brussels sprouts, because
I never
we
knew.
were, well, for a different reason, because my mom and I were at Trader Joe's when I had to take her down to Freighter.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh, you should get some peanuts. And we were talking about peanuts for some reason. And she said something about a tree. I'm like, Mom, peanuts grow on the ground. Like, no, they don't. Just, everyone knows they grow on trees. I'm like, Mom, are you being serious right now?
Oh my gosh.
She's like, Amber, they grow on a tree.
No, they really don't.
Oh my gosh. She looked it up.
Oh my gosh.
She literally Googled it because she did not. Because I do joke with her a lot, but that was not a joke.
That's no joke. Yeah, seriously, have you ever seen how I never knew how
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts grew. They
grow-
grow like that. It was so cool. I'm like, why did I not know this?
They're actually like decorative. I grow them for my
They're so
brother-in-law,
cool.
but I don't like them. But yeah, aren't they kind of
I
decorative?
only like them when they're roasted. They're so good roasted with balsamic vinegar on the top, roasted,
tried 'em
and
raw?
sea salt.
It tastes
Yes,
like cabbage.
they taste. Yeah, it's just a small cabbage.
Yeah.
Um, we
If you dip it in
made.
dressing or something.
Yeah, we made I found a recipe one year and I thought I'm gonna try this, and it had raw Brussels sprouts. It was almost like a cabbage salad. It had cranberries in it and like an orange dressing that I had to make. It was amazing. Yeah, it was so good and so easy to make.
I wonder, see, I only like asparagus when I roast it. Like
Mhm.
I roast it with Parmesan and grapeseed oil, so I wonder
Yes.
if I would like a Brussels sprout that way. I never thought.
Probably.
Wrapped asparagus.
Big, yeah.
Yes.
I try to talk them out of eating all my asparagus because I find it growing wild. I have like some spots where I live, and they're.
I want white
they're, like,
asparagus.
Scavengers. They have it. So they're like, they keep it all on you.
Oh, I love
Throw
asparagus.
Brussels sprouts in the trash. I hate 'em.
Really?
I hate 'em.
I hated Brussels sprouts, but my
Like, I
dad
love
made
vegetables.
them.
I hate Brussels sprouts.
Oh, yeah, I seriously, I could not touch them. My dad used to make them, but he made them in the microwave in some water, like steamed them in the microwave, and then put sliced cheese, like Kraft singles, over the top. And it was like rubber. It was the nastiest thing in the entire. So my whole life I thought that's what Brussels sprouts were. And then my sitter, who's a friend of ours, convinced me. She's like, anything roasted tastes good. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I roasted them, and they're so good. That's the only way I'll eat them. I haven't tried them aside from that salad. That was the only other way I've done it.
I guess if you take them,
Yeah.
Brussels
And-
sprouts steamed in the mic.
you
Like the
saute them with bacon.
Mm.
They're
In the
supposed to
bacon
be-
fat? My sister does that.
They cook the bacon a little bit and then toss the Brussels sprouts in there.
Yes.
And then they get kind of like a caramelized.
Yes.
They're supposed to be really, really good.
My sister does that. It's
Now,
so
see,
good.
If you add bacon to Brussels sprouts, I might like it.
Bacon wrapped Brussels sprouts. Roast the Brussels sprouts and then it with bacon wrapped around
Willing
it.
to try it.
Have you had the bacon wrapped water chestnuts?
Oh my gosh. I love
Oh.
water chestnuts. I just had some. We just had stir fry last night. I love water chestnuts. I pick them all out. I hoard them.
Oh my gosh.
It's so bad.
So those are good. And last year I was invited to a Christmas party, whatever, and it was a Hawaiian theme.
Oh yeah.
And so I Pinterested like a good appetizer, and I individually wrapped like 100
Oh
or
my
more
gosh.
pineapples with bacon.
With bacon.
Oh my god! And I almost started a house on fire. So you want to make sure you do that in a pan that has sides.
Oh yeah. Good
I
call.
was in a hurry trying to get ready, so I was like, whatever. That took forever. I'll never
I bet.
bacon wrap anything ever again. If someone makes it for me, great.
Yes.
That
But
took
don't make me do it
forever.
unless it's just for me.
Well, if you're making a certain
So,
quantity.
Yeah, there was a ton.
Yeah.
Of it, but yeah, that was, and then a little brown sugar at like 5 minutes, like before you're done.
Oh
That
man.
was ridiculous. They ate
Oh.
it in like 7 seconds.
Oh, I bet. That took me 4 hours. Yeah, I bet.
It's just like wrapping presents.
It did.
Yes.
Took me
You
3
wrap, you
hours.
spend hours and hours, and in 20 minutes, you have it destroyed.
Yeah. I get it.
Makes me want to cry.
Oh, food. I'll have to tell you about our Thanksgiving. Okay, let me show you the workaround if you have PDF problems. That's the only other thing I want to show you. If you have errors, or once you look at your PDF, your background's missing, text is missing, whatever, it just won't export. The workaround would be to create a JPEG, and then we create the PDF from that. If you're sending it to a lab, you're probably going to want a JPEG anyway, but just for the purpose of this assignment, to keep it all together, make it a little bit easier, I'll show you how to create the PDF. It's not hard. But first we have to export as a JPEG. So in your book settings, you would save it as a JPEG if the PDF's an issue. Then when you export your book to JPEG, it's going to do the same save menu, photo, book, JPEG. But what it's going to do instead, once it exports, is it's going to save individual JPEGs of every single page. And then we just have to put it together in Acrobat, which is a very quick process. Once it saves NBC, I have no idea why I just did that. Okay, so it's going to save. Here it is. Your cover's still going to be one document, so that's not an issue there. But every page is a separate file. And this is going to be numbered, page 1, page 2, so that you know exactly what order it needs to go in. But here's the good thing. Photo spreads, it saves both pages as one page. The only problem, oh no, it did do it that way. Okay, good. So page 4 and 5, it's labeled as page 4, but it is the full spread. And then it does number. It skips numbering 5 because that's included in 4, and then it starts numbering with 6. So it will keep them all in order, and then of course I have a 7. So the workaround to this then would be to go into Adobe Acrobat, which is in your dock. It's like the little loopy icon. And you go into Acrobat here. When you go into Acrobat, and it's okay if you forget these steps. Hopefully this won't be an issue for you, but if it happens. When you go into Acrobat, if you do create, and then you want to create a PDF from, I want to do from file, I want multiple files. I think I can still do this option. You want to do the multiple PDF files. Did you manually do each page when you did yours? Oh, okay.
No, I went to import file or something, and then I can select all of them.
All of them. So what you can do is I can add files. Let's see if this is going to do what I want it to do. Yep. Okay. So even though it says from multiple PDF files, you can use Word doc, PDF. That's the weird thing about Acrobat. You can combine almost a huge variety of file types into a PDF, even if it doesn't start out that way. So I can start page 1 through the end, not my cover. And I want to add those files. All I got to do is make sure they're showing up in the right order, which they should, and then I just hit OK. Output options, keep original file names. We're just going to leave it as that. This isn't the same pop-up menu, so I'm curious if I selected the right option.
Looks different.
It does. But if I do from file, maybe I should try it from
Give me
file
like
too.
a bunch of thumbnails across. And
Yeah,
checking
and it checks them off. Maybe I needed to do from file.
I think I just went to my computer.
Where is it? Let's try it. Let's do PDF from file. Oh, it did do individually. Darn it. Okay, I did select the wrong option. No. No, 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 no. Okay, scratch what I just said. Create PDF from file. See, oh, combine files into single PDF. That's the one. There we go. I want to combine files into a single PDF. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, then we're going to add those files in. Here's all my JPEGs. Add them in. Here's the thumbnails. There we go. Make sure that they're showing up in the right order. You can always rearrange them, drag and drop in whatever order you want. But when you're done, you just hit combine. That's what it's supposed to do. There we go. And then it will create a document with your pages all in order. And then you simply hit file save. And that's all you have to do. File save, choose where you want to save it. My computer in that same folder. And then I'm going to call it finished, if I can spell, finished book. There we go. And it's going to create my PDF in a matter of a second. And now I have my finished book, and it's a PDF 1 file for the whole thing. So now my book is done. So if you have an issue with the PDF first, try PDF first. Check it, even if it does export, check it. If there's an issue, export to JPEG, and then you can follow these steps. Look back at the end of the recording if you want to. To open up Acrobat, do File, oops, not Finder, File, Create, combine files into single PDF. Select the files, combine it, save, and then you're done. So that would be the workaround for it. Okay. Any questions whatsoever?
A question.
Yes.
Once you hit create save book,
Yes.
are you able to later on maybe add a page or one?
Oh, yeah. Create save book creates essentially that collection and then auto saves from that point on. So anything you change, it will save and update. So you don't want to do it last because you'll obviously probably make changes. But yes, you can always add pages and stuff like that as you go. So I would do create save book first, then it will auto save everything that you do inside that book. Yep. But yeah, change it all you want. You can change the book type, you can change the book size at any point. Any of that stuff you can change as you go, and you'll be good. Any other questions? Okay. So the challenge is putting your book together. And I think I heard you say, Ashton, it was like 4 hours, just rearranging everything and making it look. The process is not that hard. It's just getting it to look the way you want that sucks time. It's like when we were painting in class yesterday. Before I knew it, everyone's been sitting here 3 hours painting. They're like, oh my gosh, I need to go. Books do the same thing. Next thing you know, it's like 3 hours later, and you're like, oh, that didn't take long. And then you look at the clock. It goes fast when you're playing around. So the goal will be to finish your book for next week. It's not something that isn't possible. Just really don't waste till the last second to create your book because you'll curse yourself for it. Especially those that, like last semester, I think I had 3 or 4 people from my class of 15, and those 3 people waited to the last minute, and they came in and they thought, I'm just gonna lay it out, I'll export my book when I get to class. They never hit create saved book. And they had to start all over an hour before class started. So create saved book is super, 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 super important. And then besides that, don't wait till the last minute in case something happens, because of all those weird little problems that we have. So yeah, so the goal is going to be to have that book created and saved as a PDF for next week. I'll get the folder on the server if it ever lets me click. Seriously, click. There we go. But you'll see that we only have a small handful of things left, which is kind of cool, but we do still have a small handful of things to talk about. So even though we're nearing the end here, we are going to talk about slideshows next week. It's nothing too extravagant, a lot of similar things to the book, so it's actually a semi-quick conversation. I would say maybe we have like an hour of class to talk about it, but since there's a lot of similarities, there's only a few different things to show you. But then we really get into the print and the layout stuff, and they're 2 separate chapters, but they do work hand in hand. It's all the print module. And we'll be working on those projects. So if there's images that you want to kind of lay out, like whether it's a collage or you're thinking about, you know, I want to print stuff for people, but I want to be cost effective, you can cram a bunch of different sizes onto one page and then send one page to print. Start thinking about some of those things, because that's what we're going to be talking about those last couple of weeks before the last week of class. So in 2 weeks, we'll start talking about that. But other than that, you guys are all set until next week when we do the slideshow stuff.